Ahead of 2027, political experts worry about the fate of democracy in the country in the absence of a vibrant opposition following the gale of defections by political actors, including some governors and National Assembly members. Among other implications, these defections have altered the country's political map considerably from what it was in 2023. Arise political correspondent Mary Chinda illustrates the series of defection of PDP governors who continue to switch parties under the guise of positioning for political survival and access to power and resources.
Before the 2023 election, the PDP had under its control about 1/4 of the 36 states of the country. 13 governors, including Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, Sam Otom of Benue State, Okezie Ikpeazu of Abia State, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, Enugu State. Other PDP governors at the time were Udom Emmanuel, Bala Mohammed, who's still a PDP governor, Donye Diri of Bayelsa State, Ifeanyi Okowa, Delta State, Godwin Obaseki, Edo State, Darius Ishaku, Taraba State, Aminu Tambowal of Sokoto State, and Amadou Fintiri, Adamawa State, who is still a PDP governor. But all that was short-lived as power changed hands in the 2023 governorship elections, with the PDP losing states like Abia to the Labour Party in 2023 and then Edo State to the APC in 2024. As the months disappeared into years, the once vibrant opposition party began to shrink. As the party began to witness an internal crisis and a battle for the soul of the party, linked to the FCT minister Nyesom Wike. Some governors began to defect in 2025. From Delta State, the home state of the PDP vice presidential candidate Ifeanyi Okowa, the governor, Sheriff Oborofori, defected to the APC in a grandiose style, being received by the Vice President Kashim Shettima and others, leaving experts more worried about the future of the opposition party system in Nigeria. Then came Akwa Ibom's Umo Eno, then Enugu's Peter Mbah, and Bayelsa's Governor Donye Diri. And Osun State was not spared, as the dancing governor, Senator Ademola Adeleke, ahead of the 2026 Osun governorship election, has left the opposition party, PDP, for the Accord Party. The latest defections come from the home state of the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, as Governor Sim Fubara only on Thursday officially decamped to the APC, insisting it is in the political interest of the state. From 13 governors in 2022, the PDP is down to 6 governors as of December 2025. Even as speculations hint that Taraba Governor Abu Kefas is set to decamp in January, and Plateau Governor Caleb Mufwang may be next in line. The question really is, how did the once vibrant PDP shrink from 14 governors in 2019 to 13 governors in 2023 and now 6 governors in 2025? Mary Chinda, Rise News.
Let's delve into discussion now as the 3 spokesmen of Nigeria's major political party join us one after the other for a robust discussion on opposition party politics. First, let's bring in Ememobong, National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party. Good morning, Ememobong. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Dr. Bati. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Ayo. Glad to be here.
Morning. Good to see you again.
Well, in a just very simple question, as they say in popular slang, who they shop? In other words, who is left in the shop in PDP? Within the space of one week, You lost the governor of Osun State. You lost the governor of Rivers State. And in both states, those two governors left with, their supporters and allies into other parties. Accord Party in Osun, APC in Rivers State. Now, when you look around, who still they shop, as they say in popular slang? And do you think that the PDP still stands a chance in the 2027 election, now that it looks like the APC machinery has swept, almost the entire landscape? Almost. Because we don't know who next is also going to jump ship.
Very true. Who they shop presupposes who they pursue people come up from shop. And people will get mind to remain for shop. Because owner of shop know they run live in shop. So that's where it is. But again, when you look at the reason for which most of the governors have said, they said, let's connect to the center. It presupposes that there are benefits that the system, the central system, is not running an egalitarian system. It's running a nepotic system where governance favors are dispensed on the basis of political partisanship. And that calls to question whether that is how we should run it. A political party primarily being a vehicle for the assessment of power becomes the ideology through which people who aspire to those offices should execute the mandates of the office. But you now see in a situation where people just come to the public space and say, look, we are connecting to the center so that we can take benefits back home. The unsaid thing is that it means if you do not connect to the center, you don't take things home. That is clearly undemocratic, that is clearly anti-development, and that is where we need to begin the discussion from. But for the people who are still there, remember, Dr. Abati, that in 1998, when we started politics, we didn't have governors, we didn't have senators, but we built all of this. And that is why we are going back now to say that, where did we get it wrong? The process of bringing people. Remember also that even in 1999 to 2007, they were all pressures like this, but you found people who were able to stand their ground and to exert that, look, we belong to a political party, we can't shift grounds like that. But maybe it speaks to the morality of the people we handed power to. It speaks to their inability to stand for what they believe in. And so when, like the report by Mary Chinda said, yes, how did we get to where we got, it's vicarious. Yes, we have internal issues that have led us to where we are, but we also have external pressures that nobody can deny has also led here, because you hear people say, look, we need to, for example, for some leaked videos will say, we don't want problems with the center, we want to be able to attract things. We've been here in the dark outside the center for so long, so we are not able to attract things to our people. We need to connect our people to the center so that they can begin to benefit. Should a federation run like that? It goes to the question of the type of federation we're running and the type of political systems that we are running.
Okay, I get the point around external pressures, but to be fair, others might also opine that external pressure might not have that much of an effect if internally you have things together. For instance, case in point, what happened in Osun State, in protection of his political future, the governor of Osun State, who might have stayed on in the PDP, had to fish out for another party so that come 2027, he wouldn't have or meet with surprises. So let's talk about the internal issues in the PDP and how this might have been curtailed if the PDP was firm enough to have expelled or at least, let me use the word, punished erring members who worked against the party. But it seemed like the PDP was reluctant to do this, and that reluctance might have cost the party its life. Its life might have been the beginning of the end of the PDP. What do you have to say about this? Because it seems like the internal struggles are even more than the external pressures.
Well, Ayo, that's true. It depends on the spectacles with which you're looking at an action. Some people may see reluctance, some may see giving time for wounds to heal. But clearly at this point now, and you only know the results after the fact. Because if they had also rushed to take the decisions that we have taken now, people would have said, no, you didn't give time for it to heal. I mean, you don't beat a baby and expect that baby not to cry. So at this point now, it is termed reluctance. But at that point, it was termed as forbearance. It was termed as perseverance. It was termed as understanding, in the hope that negotiations, people will be able to get off the heat of the 2023 elections, the wounds, lick their wounds, come back and resume rationality. But clearly, every passing day showed that the people were doubling down instead of reconsidering their position. Yes, decisive decisions should have been taken in 2023, but you know that you look at issues per time. At that time, you saw that we had issues surrounding should the national chairman of the party and the presidential candidate have come from the same place. Those things sounded logical. Those things sounded reasonable. But we didn't know that people were hiding under those reasons as a facade to undertake activities for which they had already purported in their mind to do so. And saying that we are not exculpating ourselves from the internal the responsibility of the internal issues that have brought us here, no, which is why the current administration is saying, can we build back again from the grassroots? Can we begin to have principles that the voices, while we respect the voices of strategic stakeholders like governors, and eventually when we get to power, ministers and the president, but that the voice of the people must always be heard, because it was the neglect of the voice of the people that got us into all this crisis that we are in, which is why you could see that 2 governors objected to an action on the convention ground. Convention overrode them and still took. And I must appreciate the fact that they accepted it to say, well, these are my own personal observations, but convention has overriding power. They overrode them. If it was in the past, the position of those quality voices, minority voices, would have overridden the quantitative voices of the people. And so we are beginning to manage quality and quantity, because one should not outweigh the other. While we understand that a person who is of the high standing of a governor and holds a public office and holds the mandate of the people on the basis of a party, his voice is qualitative. But we must juxtapose that qualitative voice with the quantitative voice of the real owners of the party.
Okay. Ememobong, great analysis, but I just hope it's not too late for all of this Turenchi, like they say in local parlance, all this English we're speaking. And I'll take you back. I'm a scientist by training. I'll take you back to 1927. A scientist called Werner Hessenborg, he proposed something called the Hessenborg uncertainty principle, where he said you can't determine the exact location and momentum of a particle. It's difficult. And it's that same uncertainty. I've spoken to most people and even had conversations with some governors that have left. It's the uncertainty they fear. It's the uncertainty Adeleke was afraid of. He actually bought a form in the PDP. But when he also looked at the fact that with all of this uncertainty and the case goes to court, and any form, even if he gets the nomination nod, it will cause problems for him. So he quickly went to a court where there is certainty. So as this uncertainty rages on in your party, in local parlance again, is it safe to say that last, he don't cast, PDP don't chop breakfast?
Fire on fire. I mean, I like the flow of thoughts. But the dialectics between certainty and uncertainty happens even in human life. As we sit here, we are only certain about that which we have and uncertain about that which we don't have. I'm sure that if you had spoken to Senator Mishure 2 months ago, he was certain about certainty. But today, I'm sure that uncertainty has become his definition. So there is usually certainty within uncertainty and uncertainty within uncertainty. It depends on the capacity and caliber of people, the moral fiber of people. Now, when we go to the issues of the people who are complaining uncertainty today, they were leaders of the party who should have taken this decision at a time. And in fact, from the information available, despite the fact that I just got in a few weeks ago, I am aware that there were plans to have taken some of the decisions we are taking now early on in 2023, 2024. But I mean, they just thought, and in the thinking that they had at that time, that maybe a little bit of placation will work. Even in 2025, when we took the decision, you still see that some people did not agree with us. I mean, so to that extent, when personal interest attempts to override the public interest of saying, look, we have a cancer, And we need to have an operation. In having that operation, blood must go. I mean, we must still open the body, we must undertake an operation, and no one leaves an operation table and goes to run a sprint. So when we finish the operation, you need to recuperate. If this operation had happened in 2023, the uncertainty that has befallen them would not have been. So who is to blame for this? We are not taking the blames, we are rebuilding, which is why you saw that 2 days ago, we called the state chairman and we said, look, what is the situation of the party in your state? And we are beginning to address the issues that have beclouded the parties in the state. We called the ex-official members, we called the members of the House of Representatives, and we had an excellent discussion. Some of these issues came up, and we showed them the strategy that we're having. We're only hoping that the issues before the Court of Appeal, which eventually may end before, with the Supreme Court, should happen very quickly so that relative certainty will come again. But in life, there is no absolute certainty. There's usually the air of uncertainty within certainty. It now depends on, I mean, there are people who will,
Let's substitute the word certainty or uncertainty with confusion. There seems to be some confusion about which of the factions of the People's Democratic Party is legitimate. Just, I think, yesterday or so, the National Working Committee led by Katie Turaki, SAN, met with 30 chairmen, gave certificate of recognition to Oluyede, the candidate of the PDP in Ekiti State, who came with Ashebi. But almost immediately after, Samuel Anyanwu, said, no, that is not recognized. That the faction that is recognized by INEC is the Wike-supported faction. So there's still a lot of confusion. And that's why maybe perhaps some of your members are living for safe havens ahead of the 2027 election. So how certain are you, how clear are you about which of the factions is authentic?
Well, when you look at a political party starts from, the establishment starts from bottom up and the legitimacy flows therefrom. So when you ask yourself, which is why it's not solid to say that there's a faction, it's just a few persons who are not happy with the general flow of things. I mean, and that's what a democracy is. The majority will have their way, while the minority will have their say. So when you look at even this gentleman called Samuel Anyanwu, and you ask him, on what authority could you have convened a meeting that would have sacked Damagum, you see that it falls flat in the face. And so when you look at the fact that the staff of the party, I mean, even administratively, is under the control of KTT. You look at the fact that the ex-official who were elected long before we are under the control, the state chairman of the party, the BOT, the organs of the party, all the organs of the party. You see that. So you see where stability is. And when you also look at, if you push all of this and you say, which of these people are working in the interest of the party? If we put out a vote for Nigerians, they would vote that it is the KTT. We challenge them. Can they for once do what an opposition party should do, which is to challenge the action of the government in power? They cannot, because, I mean, that also shows that there's an umbilical relationship between them and what they want to do. And they've come out openly to say that, most of them have come out openly to say, look, we are supporting the president in 2027, and that looks like the main root cause of all of the problems that we're having. But again, the issue for us is not about them. The issue is we're trying to rebuild. And the people, we are People's Democratic Party. And so if people think they are very powerful and those people have been expelled, what they should probably do is to form a new party and call it their own name and add Democratic Party to it, take it to the polls and see whether they can win elections. But for this party, the quantitative voices of the owners of the party, which are the people, will compete favorably with the qualitative voices of the elites in this party.
Well, thank you very much, Ememobong, spokesperson of the People's Democratic Party, for joining us on The Morning Show.